Hey, and welcome to another episode of Expedition Marriage. I am Chris. I'm here with my lovely bride, Jamie, and we are happy, excited, enthused that you are
happy.
I'm always happy.
You are always happy.
and very excitable that you have joined us for another episode. So look, we built a house. I don't know if you've been following us on Instagram, or we certainly have mentioned it in some other episodes. We've been building a house. We've built a house.
We didn't build a house.
Yeah, that's true. We had a house built.
We paid for a house to be built.
Correct. Yeah. And so that was done. We're in it. But you know what? It's a process, and one of the most important critically important processes, is the putting down of the foundation.
Yeah.
Which, if you've been involved with that, it's kind of almost I don't want to say painfully slow process. It's kind of like okay. Now what? Okay, let's do this now. All right, can we move?
Yeah, it doesn't take forever.
Yes, ready? Come on. But you know what? And the answer is no. The answer is no, because anybody who's familiar with building a house knows very well that the integrity of the foundation is really critical to the integrity and to the survivability of the structure.
Yeah, assuming you want your house to stand, you might want to focus on the foundation. That's the thing.
Details. Yeah, and it doesn't matter what kind of materials you decide to build with. I mean, it could be the best materials, the strongest materials, and all that. If you do not have a firm...
I'm just thinking, if you don't want the big bad wolf to blow it down.
Well, because everybody who's like new houses, right? You know, you get settling, right? You get cracks, and there's all sorts of things that will start to happen. Why? Because the foundation shifts.
Yeah.
And if they didn't do right with the foundation, well, then you got companies out there that can come out and, jack up your foundation and help to provide additional supports, because it will, in times of storms, fall down.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. And so that's our house story here, and there's a reason why you're telling this, right?
There is a reason. Oh yeah, I guess let's tie that into the episode. I mean, we know what we're going to be how we're tying that in.
That's right.
This makes so much sense to us, but let's make that sense to you, because we're going to be talking about foundations.
Yeah, about how to build a strong marriage.
Right.
Because the foundation. It matters.
Right.
It matters.
Yeah, with the foundation you put in and put into place for your marriage will determine how well your marriage is able to carry on and through storms.
But because a marriage, and I think we all feel like a marriage is something that just happens. A marriage is, we got married, now we're in a marriage.
Well, because we're in love.
Yes.
But it will work out.
Right. And oh my gosh, it doesn't work that way. Marriage is something you're continuously building. It's always evolving. It's always changing, growing, or falling apart.
Repainting.
Right. You always need to fix those cracks along the way. But here's the deal. And here's why we want to talk about this topic, is because it's easier to build a strong marriage than it is to fix a broken one.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what we want. We want to help you all not have the broken marriages. We want to help give you the tools you need to build what we believe is a successful, healthy, God-centered marriage.
Right.
And that is the difference. That is a difference.
That's what's critical.
Yeah, because there are so many couples who, and here's, the goal should not be, to make it to 50 years, to make it to 65 years. That's not what defines a successful marriage.
Right.
It's not successful because, you endured and you made it. It's successful when it thrives.
Yes.
When it's good. It's successful when it looks like God intended it to look like.
And like you said, when it's God honoring.
Right.
When people look at your marriage and go, hey, I want what you have because I see the love. I see the grace. I see the long standing or the long
patience.
I
know who you're married to.
The enduring patience.
Yeah.
Right? Because you know what? We want that. We all want the mercy. We all want grace.
Right.
We want unmitigated grace. It's hard to give out, but we certainly want it.
Yeah, because marriage is not, like, you don't get a healthy, God-honoring marriage because, I married the right person. I found my soulmate. We're compatible. We have all of this love. We just got lucky finding one another. You have to make continuous efforts. You have to sow continuous seeds into your marriage if you want to reap the harvest of a good marriage.
Well, again, when we've said this before, you are sowing.
Yes, you are.
Whether you're intentional about it or not,
Yeah.
So if you're not sowing good seeds, you're sowing bad seeds.
Yeah, and that's why the divorce rate gets higher the longer you've been married, and when the kids start heading out on their own, when they get in high school years and go off into college, a lot of marriages crumble because they've sown seeds of the kids leading the family for 15 years, of not focusing on one another, not investing, not doing
detachment,
the things God calls us to
disconnection,
do.
other interest.
Right, right. And so this isn't about luck. This isn't about finding your soulmate. This is about
Nope.
putting in the work, putting in the effort, putting in the commitments. And we're definitely not in the marriage is hard camp. Are seasons of marriage hard? Yes. But marriage isn't all about work and hard effort and all of that.
No, all work and no play makes Johnny a dull boy.
Right.
I mean, you've got a little Shining reference there, but but look, you've got to have fun. That's part of the joy. We've got a whole episodes about that. You know, that's what helps to show the love of Christ. Because if we have no joy, we're just walking around just all drudging and
we made it. Celebrated 50 years
well,
today.
we're together. Like people go, I don't want that.
No.
No.
No, nobody wants a ball and chain marriage or
in fact, your kids will grow up and they'll go, I don't want what my parents had.
Yeah.
Maybe I won't get married. Or, you know what, we're married and it's starting to look like what my parents had, and I certainly don't want that to happen. And if it's after 5
life's
years.
too short, I'm out.
No.
Yeah, so we don't want that for you, and nobody wants to have that for themselves, honestly.
No.
But you have to know that these aren't places you hear that, we fell out of love. No, you don't fall into an unhappy marriage. You don't fall into a bad marriage. You've earned it. You work yourself there.
Oops, I tripped. We have a bad marriage.
Yeah,
No,
it's like
you
that
earned it.
happens.
I love how you put that. We earned it.
By default, you will fall out of love. You will fall into those bad places if you refuse. My garden is going to die if I do not ever water it. Period.
Yeah.
And that's
Weeds
what
will come
happens.
in. Yeah,
If
all
you're
sorts of
not
stuff.
actively working on something and actively pouring into it, making efforts and feeding it to grow it, by default, it will die. You don't have to just choose. My garden will also die if I go out there and put, insecticides or killers or whatever they are all over it. You can do that, but that's not the only way things die.
Right.
Your marriage won't just die if you do bad things in it. It will also die if you put nothing
If you don't
into
nourish
it, if you
it.
don't tend it at all.
Yep.
So let's
talk about the nourishment.
Hey!
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So what are some of these, let's call them building blocks, I guess, that you're going to need for a strong marriage?
Underpinnings.
Underpinnings. We did just build a house.
We did just build a house. Yeah, okay.
So first one is communication. And we put this on top for a reason as the first one. I mean, there's a lot of other more biblical things and holier things that should pull rank. But the reality is you have to have communication. And if we go back to us building a house, our builders needed to communicate.
Yeah.
If they did not, no building would get done, or a whole bunch of sloppy building would get done.
Right.
We wanted our builder talking to the framers. We wanted them talking to the foundation people, the roofers, all of these other people.
The architect.
Right, because they know we have building plans. We're working towards this together, and we've got to talk about it so we can build the same house. We want the design to match. We want it to be the house that is designed to be built.
Yeah, don't want them to be building the attic part backwards.
No.
Oh, wait. We had these silly plans upside down.
No, and so you have to communicate and get on board and know, you know what? Let's listen to one another. Let's share with one another.
Yep.
Let's talk about our goals, our values. What do we want? Before our builder started building our house, we designed the plan.
Yeah.
We discussed, what do we want? What are we going towards? What's the outcome?
Right. Yeah. We figured out, okay, this is the end result.
Right.
What is it that we want? And then that way we were able to.
You don't just want sticks building up.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. I just want a house. I want it to be pretty.
Yeah.
And you know what? Actually, because look, this seems kind of simple, but really, a lot of people I just want a happy marriage.
Yeah.
I just want a loving marriage. I just want a peaceful marriage. I just want us to be able to. Right? Yeah. Okay. But what does that look like?
Yeah.
How are you able to convey that to your spouse? How are you all able to share that with each
Yeah,
other?
because my idea of a happy marriage might be, I want you to serve me all the time and do whatever I
Waving
would
palm
like.
fronds.
Right.
Yeah,
Feeding me
grapes.
grapes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
foot rubs, all that kind of
So
stuff.
you do have to communicate these things and know what you're trying to build.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you've got to have these shared goals. And that's one thing that we tell people. We tell people, look, talk to each other about what you want. So many times we talk about, well, I don't want you to do this, or I don't want that. Okay, but what do you want? Let's talk about what you want for it to happen, because you're going to find out more times than not, you all probably want the same things in large scales.
Yeah.
That you all really want
And
the same
sometimes it
things
looks
for your
different.
marriage. Yeah.
But you also need to communicate, because even through the building process, we had to come out on site all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And evaluate, okay, the walls have gone up, this has gone up. Is this what you wanted? Does this look like you wanted it to
Are
look?
we still heading in the right direction?
Right. And so you want to have those moments where you get together and it's like, hey, we're not okay, or this isn't okay, or I want more for us. And so you have to be able to communicate these things.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, you've got to communicate, else you'll have no way to move forward towards a goal if you're not even talking about it.
Right. Yeah. Like if we have security cameras on the corner on our house. It's like, okay, well, if they put but all the security cameras right next to each other on one corner of the house and not anywhere else, right? It's important to point that out and going, hey, you got the right idea of the height, just not the displacement,
we need them in other areas. Yeah. So communication, that's why that one's foundational. That's a big one. You have to have that. And the next one, these are this is super foundational as well, because you're not going to build anything without having trust.
Yep.
Trust and honesty.
Yeah, because one of the challenges that we'll run into is that couples won't acknowledge some of the challenges that they're running into. Because they're having struggles, and we've shared my story about how I would withhold stress, and then it would come out as being a big jerk.
Be a turd.
Big jerk. No, okay, a turd, whatever. But because the questioning is sometimes, will our relationship hold up through the challenges? Will our commitment last the storm, right? Well, can we survive? Do we have the mettle to? Well, we're afraid of that. And so, I'm just not going to, there's some people who just won't bring that to the table unless it comes to a head. But you have to acknowledge the struggles. You got to acknowledge the issues.
You have to be able to trust your spouse enough to be vulnerable and to share those things and to talk about the real things. If you do not trust that your spouse is all in it, and that you don't trust that your spouse meant the vows that they said, those vows are meaningless.
Yeah, that they have a good heart and they really want the best for you and the marriage.
Yeah.
And so that way, when you do have something that's bothering you, they want to know.
Yeah.
They want to work, so that way you all can start to work through things and become stronger as a result.
Yeah.
But the challenge, what the end result tends to be, is someone not sharing something until it comes to a head later on.
Right.
Well, that actually erodes trust.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Wait, well, hold on. You're telling me this now. Well,
Yeah.
why didn't you tell me
And
before?
if you're questioning one thing, if you're caught in a lie over one thing or dishonest in one thing, the whole house crumbles.
Yep.
Because now you are either proving yourself trustworthy or untrustable.
Yeah, you're
That's
poking
it.
holes
There's
in that
no,
trust.
well, I can't trust him for this, but I could trust him for everything else.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. And so you can't have a marriage filled with lies, filled with secrets, and with all this withholding. Because if you can't be vulnerable and transparent, you can never move forward.
Yeah.
Because you can't trust the other
No,
person.
yeah. So you got to let your yes be yes and your no be no, or all else is from the evil one.
Yeah.
And you got to trust that the other person's heart's good, that they really want the best for your marriage and the best for you both.
Yeah, and we've worked with tons of couples, unfortunately, helping them overcome affairs. And the time that it won't move forward is when the adulterous spouse refuses to let their other spouse see their phone, know where they're at,
Yep.
do whatever they need to do to be. If that spouse is not willing to be transparent and they get hung up on, well, you just need to trust me. You just need to, I told you it was that way, so therefore you better believe it. That marriage is not going to be redeemed.
No.
It's not going to heal, because you can't move forward if you never trust your spouse. If I didn't trust you, I would be scared all the time.
Sure. And I want to reassure you. And even if it's my phone, I got to trust that, you know what, you're not going to become my parent, that you're not going to be, that this means that this is how it's always going to be, and you're going to be controlling me and all that. I got to trust that, you know what, this is just a season. This is what it's going to take to work this out and work through this.
That's right. So trust and honesty, you've got to have that as a foundation. And another thing you need to have, this is a big one. I think this is lacking in a lot of couples, is emotional support.
Yeah.
And men and women alike, you'll hear more women longing for this, but just as many men need it. It just looks different.
Yes, they still
Men
want
want
it.
to be believed in and respected, and they want to be trusted in the fact that, like, quit questioning everything, because of course I have your best interest
Right.
at heart.
Of course, we're emotional beings. We do require that to know that it's okay for us to feel the ways that we feel.
Yeah.
To think you don't have to get it. I don't
No,
have.
but to have empathy. Empathy
Yeah.
doesn't require you fully understand.
No, empathy solves a lot of things. So I don't have to get why a certain nail polish that looks very similar to some other nail polishes you already have excites you so much that you got that. But I know that it does, and so I can empathize with your excitement and be a part of that.
Yeah, and I
just-
think we used to lack a little. I used to lack in empathy more, and I am a highly empathetic person. But in our marriage, it was harder because if you shared something, my first thing is to run it through a filter of, is that going to work, or is that right, or is that wrong? And then my opinion would steal the empathy from me, and I would be like, well, that's dumb. Why would you feel like that? That doesn't make any sense. And I think normally that's a man's position, but for me, it's like I'm highly rational, and that was hard for me to not put you down and be like, no, and invalidate kind of your feelings.
Yeah.
I don't think you ever did it to me, but I think this is something that a lot of couples are experiencing that.
Oh yeah. I used to call you a dream sucker, but that I guess that could be considered a little invalidating. I don't know, But look, Paul says in Galatians 6:2, bear one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. We gotta be that support to each other. We gotta be willing to bear each other's burdens. We gotta share the burdens so that way the other ones can bear it and fulfill the law of Christ. But also that vulnerability, that sharing with each other, that brings us closer.
It does. It does. And that's part of another thing we'll slip in there is quality time and romance. And that's where when your spouse's emotional support. Now, you shouldn't be their only support. We have to have friends too. We have to have community and things like that. But we need to be willing to listen to one another and celebrate with one another, grieve with one another, sit in those moments and have compassion and empathy for one another. And that happens over quality time.
Yeah.
We have to be together. We have to actually spend time together. And I have to be willing to put my phone down and turn the game off, or come home from work early on occasion. Be like, hey, my spouse needs me.
Yep.
Or our marriage, we are run ragged. We need a date. We need to go out, and you need to have that quality time.
Yeah. Quality time comes from quantity time. You can't just say, okay, we got 2 minutes, let's make it quality.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
It
doesn't.
You got to have a practice of having time together, and then quality will come out of that.
Right. And that grows the romantic category as well. And when we say romance in your marriage, we're not talking about just roses and flowers and all of these special elaborate dates. Yeah, they can be. But it's that affection. It's that riding in the car and holding hands.
Yeah, reassuring touch.
Yes, it's the rubbing of shoulders and all the things like that are just so affectionate and comforting. That connection, that romance can just be intimate connecting in any kind of way.
Getting face to face and eye to eye with each other.
Yes, and you've got to spend time together if you're going to do that.
Absolutely.
And the last one, this is a big one, is humility and trusting God, which ultimately is that really is linked heavily with humility, because your marriage is not all about you. It's not all about you getting your way, you being right. You shouldn't have to apologize.
If you say so.
And all of those things.
No, actually, and this might go extreme, but let's look. Romans 12:19, Paul says, beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. Now, how about that for some humility?
Yeah.
How about that for being able to step back and going, I don't have to get mine. I don't have to prove myself right or get you back. I can put this in God's hands.
Right. Right. And because that's what it's about. It's trusting him to help you overcome whatever it is you need to overcome. And in Matthew 7:24 says, everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And then you know the rest, the rain, the storms, everything comes. And that's the house that stands.
Yep.
But it's when God tells us what to do and we don't do it. We're going to get blown over.
Yeah.
Your house is going to crumble. You have to have God in the center of your marriage. A 50-year
Critical.
successful marriage, all fine and dandy, but it is not the same as a marriage after God, after God's design. And so you have to put him in the middle. You have to know that this marriage is so much more than about me and my own happiness and what I desire. Or even it's so much more than about what you want and your own happiness. It's about, God, what do you want? You give us, we took our building plans, gave them to an architect, and he designed it. That's who God is in your marriage. He is the architect. He is the designer of marriage. And if you don't follow those plans, our builders did not go rogue.
No.
And we need to not go rogue with the plans and the design that God has given us as well. And so to wrap all this up, first of all, I want to tell you, or I just want to encourage you, pick one of these things. If something stood out to you that you know you need to work on, pick one of them and start focusing on that and do that. And if you want to email us at email@expeditionmarriage.org, share a little bit with us, let us know what you're going to work on, send us a DM over on Instagram. We would love to hear from you, and we'd love to support you and pray for you or whatever you need us to do. So here's the deal to wrap this up. Building a strong marriage is like a journey that requires commitment, patience, and continuous effort from both of you. It's about having open communication. It's about having trust and emotional support while navigating life's challenges together. But ultimately, it's when you seek the Lord and follow his commands for your marriage, that's when you'll be able to
Enjoy the journey.